I realise I'm not even recording.
We're recording now.
Recording in progress. Is that a protein shake, son?
No, mate, just water.
Yeah, good lad.
Yeah, yeah.
Mate, you're not a student anymore, right? Stop fucking drinking water out of a protein shake. Get yourself a glass, son. Do you know what I
Mate,
mean?
do you know what it is? I prefer to drink out of a pint glass and we don't have any.
Oh no.
It's just a stupid muggy little mistake. A mistake, the excuse, isn't it? But
Yeah.
yeah.
Just get that's you reminding yourself of your uni days anyway, just drinking out of pints, but it's water now you're like just getting it down here. Oh, it's just water now. Your rugby days, eh?
I know, mate, yeah. Straight on pints out of a plastic cup. Fucking
Right, should we
hell.
get this show on the road anyway, Ali?
Yeah.
Unless it's already started.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it probably has already started, right?
Yeah, just go
Um,
with it.
So, hello, welcome to the podcast. Today we have James Bezant with us. James, you want to give us a quick rundown of who you are, what you do?
Um, Personal trainer like Ollie, met we met through combined strength. Andy McKenzie, someone who's I suppose used to be a Royal Marine, so I used to do a lot of running then and did a lot to get into the Marines, but then I sort of moved away from it to a degree, and then started like lifting weights a lot more. And now over the last year and a half, I've
Hmm.
sort of picked up running again and started doing ultra marathons. My first ultra marathon was with Ollie on the Gower, and then I've done a couple of events since then. And yeah, that's it really. So I can finally, I think, say that I'm a runner instead of a, I don't know what I am. I lift weights and run. So now
Yeah,
it's, yeah, 5 times a week running. So that outweighs the weights, doesn't it?
it's serious, mate, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, that's me. That's a little rundown on me.
And I guess like one of the reasons that I wanted to get you on is because you have officially entered the Dragon's Back,
Hmm.
right? Which probably if you're not into running or you're not into ultra marathons, you might not have a clue
Hmm.
about what it is, but it's a pretty serious race. Do you want to briefly just go over what it is? And
So they say it's like the world's toughest mountain race. It's 6 ultra marathons each day with roughly about 3,000 meters of elevation per day. I think the whole thing, the 6 days combined, is like 380 kilometers, and you're essentially running from the top of Wales down to the south, so Conway Castle, all the way to Cardiff Castle, just running along the spine to a degree. So just yeah, like it's deemed as the world's toughest mountain race. If you guys want to know more about it, just go on YouTube and type in Dragon's Back Race, because Montaigne have done an amazing job on actually videoing and getting the best footage from their previous events. Um, I first heard about it by my cousin. He's Welsh and he's like your typical Welsh person that's just really proud to be Welsh. And he 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 sent me a video of this link probably about 6 to 7 years ago, and it was like when I looked at it, I was just literally, it's one of those things where I wasn't running at the time. I was just lifting weights, probably doing like the odd run now and then, let's say, nothing consistent with running. I just looked at the video, I was like, fuck that, fuck doing that. That is disgusting. You know, when you just look at something, you're like, that's impossible. I could never do that, blah, blah, blah. And then essentially what happened in 2021, I started getting into running again, actually. I feel like I lost a bit of purpose with like training. I just
yeah,
got bored of lifting weights. I just fell into that. Probably quite similar to you a little bit, but I suppose you found it a little bit maybe earlier than what I did.
yeah,
Um, and I just thought like I was just getting bored of going to the gym 4 times a week, squats, deadlifts, machines, blah blah blah. I was just like, surely there's a bit more that I could do to push myself. I was pushing myself, like progressing those lifts, but I just didn't find them as enjoyable. So I started running again a little bit more. Then a guy, I don't know if you know him, John Clark.
Yeah.
He was doing an amazing challenge that was the 48, 48, 48, 48 marathons over 48 days across 48 counties.
Hmm.
So, and he did the driving himself. Absolute savage challenge, but it's not the fact that, oh, he's just done that. Like, if you know John, I think he was like UK's strongest man at something,
Yeah, he's a big
some
lad, isn't
point.
he?
So he's a very, he's just, if you look at him, you're not going to go to him and say you're the runner. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
he's already on the back foot. And I sort of met him through Instagram a little bit, and Aaron Davies. And he was like, Aaron knew him a bit better than me and said, oh, you know, we're gonna, he's doing West Sussex. Aaron had sorted out the route, and I essentially ran with him that day with no real training. Did like 18 miles, I think it was. I can't remember whether it's a bit of give or take. And it was, you know, it was a plod. It wasn't like all out. And I just thought roughly after that moment, I was like, do you know what? I felt great doing that. I'm just going to start pushing running a little bit more again. And just thought, why not? And then that year, still 2021, I was in Wales over staying in Brecon Beacons with my girlfriend. We had like a lovely little cottage.
Hmm.
Accidentally, while the Dragon's Back was on. So
Oh,
bear in mind, I spoke to my cousin years ago, and then the Dragon's Back was on. I didn't know that it was on at all, and he messaged me saying, "Oh, this guy that I'm friends with now, I go running with now, Sam Skinner's doing that Dragon's Back race. Do you remember that? What we spoke about?" Then I just started dot watching
hmm.
Sam, and it sort of took over my little mini break because I was just watching like this thing, watching, went on the YouTube, went on everything. I was messaging you at the time as well about it, if I remember rightly.
Mm.
And then
Bet your missus was buzzing about that.
yeah, she was like, "Oh, just sign up for it, go for it. You know, you've got into running a little bit more recently, just sign up for it." And I was just thinking, you know, yeah, like that. Nearly filled
Yeah.
out the forms and stuff. And then I just had to like put my coaching head on a little bit,
Rein it in.
and just, and I think I asked you about this as well. I was like, do you think it's worth doing it next year or the following year? And you said do it the following year, because the thing is with an event like that, that multi-day event, you know, 6 days back to back, you're camping. So if you have your food cooked for you and
Mm.
your camp is all set up for you, but you run into camp,
Mm.
eat, sleep, then set off again, and obviously they move the base, should we say,
Yeah.
down south. And I'm really glad I didn't sign, just gone, because it's one of those events where everyone I've known who's done it, people I've spoken to who haven't completed it, they never play it down. So it's like one of those events that you can't really wing it, you can't
Mm.
cuff it, you just get found out because of the elevation and the distance. But also, what makes, I suppose, Dragon's Back hard compared to other multi-day events is the cut-offs are quite tough.
Yeah.
So you've got to be in certain places at certain times, you know, and you're 1 second over, you're off,
Hmm.
you're done, you know. Um, so it is an event where you do have to do quite a lot of running. You know, you have to run the flats and the downhills. You know, you literally have to run them.
Yeah.
And you know, it's over 6 days. You know, you think about, so if we go back a little bit, after when I was in that weekend with
Mm.
my girlfriend, I was chatting to Ollie. It wasn't that long after, right? Because that was November, wasn't it?
Yeah. 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 Because I was thinking about when it was only that summer that you began pushing running a bit more, right? And I'm pretty sure
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I still haven't been running long.
you did like a September, or it was October half marathon and
Yeah,
hated it.
yeah. Oh yeah, road running.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that, and then so essentially after that weekend of being in the Brecons and speaking to you about it as well, listening to your advice. Thank God, not my girlfriend's, of just booking it for this year, just gone. Um, we did the ultra, didn't we, in the
Yeah.
Gal, which was brilliant, and that was good fun, amazing weather. Um, and yeah, so I suppose I've just been, you know, consistently running. I've had it like last week. I was quite ill, so I stopped that week. Managed to just get one session in. But I've been consistently running now for over, God, how long is that? That's over a year
Yeah, yeah,
now,
probably.
isn't it? I
Yeah,
suppose.
yeah, probably coming
Yeah,
up about
yeah,
14 months, 15 months, maybe.
yeah. Not long, over a year. So I'm still quite baby legged in a way
Yeah,
compared to when you look at these guys who've just got like 10 to 12 years of real consistent running in them. So yeah,
it's funny though when you because I was looking at, obviously I watched the whole Dragon's Back this year. I
mm.
nearly I was almost tempted to like just be
Yeah,
like,
mate. It's so inspirational watching
fuck
that.
it, I'll do it, I'll just
Yeah.
enter. And then I was like, oh, actually, this is not a good, because I was kind of looking at that, and then I was looking at doing some of the UTS stuff as well.
Mm,
And then I was like, actually, no, you need to rein it in and actually think about how you
mm,
want to, like, what goals you want to do over the course of,
mm.
it's something I think I definitely want to complete in the future. But again, it's just like, it's such a savage challenge. And like you said, there's people that are getting timed out on the first day.
Like they
Um,
lose about 25% of the field on the first day.
which is
The first day,
unbelievable.
yeah, the first day tends to be, the first 2 days tend to be warm. So roughly, what was it last year? Last year was savage. They roughly get between 350 and 400. And they had, I think, over on the first day, over 100 people had bottomed out on that first day because it was so hot,
Yeah,
like 30-degree heat on
yeah,
the on when you're in snow, like Snowdonia. That's savage because it's not just 30-degree heat, it's humidity, and you're obviously like running on that rock as well, which is so hot. But something I've got to allude to as well, that's not just about these doing the event and completing the event. You've got to get to the fucking event as well.
which is
You know what
a
I mean?
challenge in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is the thing. That's why I'm always partial that like Dragon's Back, as much as I know all these things about, I've got actually get to the event, because you know what I mean. It doesn't take much. You're doing one of your hard runs a few weeks before, and you do something. That happens. I always There's a group like Dragon's Back group on Facebook that anyone can join, but you always see it. Like last year, I saw it. People going, "Oh, does anyone want my spot? I've done something to my knee,
Yeah.
etc., etc." You know what I mean? So like, as much as you've got to get through 6 days of you know everything's over 32 miles. So like
Mm.
the first day is the shortest but the highest elevation,
Yeah.
and every other day is roughly about 40 miles.
Yeah.
um you Before you even got to get through that, you've got to actually get to the event. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's savage.
Crazy. Could you just move your mic a bit away from your t-shirt, just because you're a bit scratchy. Cheers, mate. Sit up
Cheers,
straight.
mate.
Yeah. Okay, so before we kind of move on to reasons for doing it, obviously, if you could just give us a quick idea of like your sporting background, obviously you said about the
Yeah.
Marines and stuff like that, because I think for most people that, if someone's watching this now and they're like, oh, I'd love to be able to do that, something similar, but they might, maybe they've done some running before, maybe they've done nothing before. Like, it's
Mm.
always good to get a grasp of like where you were when you decided, actually, I'm going to go and do some running. Does that
So
make sense?
I suppose I've always been sporty. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean I was good at it. I played football, cricket, loved PE, like this. That sort of just element of playing team sport has always been something I've really enjoyed. Then you sort of dip out of it a bit when you go to college and you stop playing Saturdays and Sundays football. So I suppose I've always moved to some sort of degree to the gym when I was probably about 16, like just playing around weights, bench every day, standard, like just like those sorts of things. But I was pretty consistent in the gym by then. Then when I went to college, one of my lecturers used to be in the army, and I was like fascinated by him. He had loads of all these amazing stories of Iraq and stuff like that. And then he said to me, "Oh, if you want to join something that's like tough to get into, but like a real cool brotherhood, he's like, join the Royal Marines." And then I was just sold by their websites, their adverts.
Mm-hmm.
They just did everything better than what the army did to a degree when it comes to like the advertisement of stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's when I just started sort of, right, you got to start running, and I was just running 3 4 times a week. Um, and I was just doing like bodyweight sessions because like to get into the Marines, you have to be good at pull-ups,
Hmm.
press-ups, just like good bodyweight stuff.
Yeah.
And you have to be running, and all that sort of flows together anyway to a degree. Do you know what I mean? It all helps each other because it wasn't like I was lifting heavy weights when I was doing the bodyweight stuff.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so I suppose I started running then, but when I actually rocked up at basic training, I was probably like top three, top five fittest lads in our troop, especially when it came to running. But what was interesting, and it's something I'll never forget, because I sort of went there too fit
Yeah, I remember you
in a
saying
way.
this.
So like by week 9, and then what's it, week 12 or week 13, you go to this thing called bottom field. I was literally flagging. I was having shin splints. I was having issues with my knees. So like I went in really high and like, God, this lad's mega fit. Boom, 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 boom. And then I started going down with the lads who sort of did just wing it a bit, who played football a few times. They got fitter.
Mm.
They got strong. Like it's hard to pass raw range training, but it is there for you to pass. Like it's a progressive now 9-month training block, but you do carry a lot of fatigue, lack of sleep, but you get fed well, and you do get training. Some of the training could probably be altered to be a bit better, but it's not there for that. It's not about, let's think of the troops.
Mm.
It's like they need to do this all under fatigue. Do you know what I mean? So when it came to like that, say like that week 15, the last bit, it actually, I think, got quietened down. You had phases where it just quietened down, and
Mm.
then I sort of just dragged myself through the commando test, which is like a 30 miler. You got the endurance course, which is like an 8 mile run through like the tunnels and stuff, and then you've got to do like a shooting thing at the end. You've got the Tarzan assault course, which you've got to do in 13 minutes. That's honking. Then you've got like the 9 mile speed march, but you'll get like the lads who, like I said, didn't do much training, full basic training. They breezed those tests. Whereas me on the 30 miler, my knee, I had this mad weird thing in my knee, and it was just like I dragged myself around Dartmoor
Mm.
for that 30 miles, and I was just like, do you know what I mean? So it's funny how like that made me when I reflect upon that now as a coach, knowing a lot more about the body, it was really interesting to think about, peaking, tapering, and sort of things like that. Whereas
Yeah.
actually, I didn't know what any of that was. I didn't have a coach. I just ran and got fit. And then, I obviously peaked mega early compared to other people. Whereas if I had like a chilled month before going to basic training, do you know what I mean? I'd have probably had a much nicer experience. But yeah, anyway, that's like my background to a degree. And then when you've passed out as a Royal Marine, you are sort of expected to run and sort of look after yourself, but you will do sort of troop uh, PT like
Yeah.
daily, whether it be circuits, it would be like a run. So you keep yourself keep yourself ticking over nicely, and there's certain tests every year that you have to pass, just as a standard to make sure that you're sort of operationally fit, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. And yeah, and then I suppose I left and became a personal trainer. That
Mm.
was it, really.
Then decided to try and get wham.
I don't know even if it was that. It was more just being strong. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean? I just enjoyed that element of training. To be fair, like just building up lifts, getting better at the snatch,
Yeah.
clean and jerks. Like I just enjoy. There's always been, I suppose, if we were to look back at my style of training, there's always been an element of enjoyment to it. If that
Hmm.
makes sense. So like
Yeah.
when I've worked with like Grant, some of you've worked with before, it's like I want to build up my back squat, but I actually enjoy back squatting,
Yeah.
even though it just ruins me. I actually enjoy that lift. Do you know what I mean? So there's always an element of that. I want to get better at snatching. Like I quite like the process of an exercise like that where it just humbles you straight away.
Mm.
So there's always an element of enjoyment to my training. Not all the time though. Obviously, I turn up to sessions sometimes and I'm just like, I do not want to do that.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that's training as a whole. To be fair.
Yeah. And like, off the back of because when I speak to people that have been in the military before,
Mm,
um, I tend to, generally I've seen two kind of camps. One who are like, I've always kind of run and
mm,
they keep it going as almost like part of
yeah.
just part of like what they do. And the other being like, I've done all my running, don't want to do it again.
Yeah, and I was on that one that you said, right, until I sort of found a love for it. Um, because sometimes the way you do running, you're carrying all this kit and you're covered in sand, you've just been dunked in a puddle. It can sort of thrash like the enjoyment of something you once loved out of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then when I think about that, then that's you're choosing that perspective. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you sort of have to reframe the way that you are. Like I quite easily say, like, like I was in that latter of what you said. I was like,
Hmm.
fuck running, I've done that in the Marines. But it's like I hate clean shaving because I had to do it for like 8 years, but I never do it anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's like definitely tainted. Yeah, I never have a clean shave ever. So, but that's obviously a bit different. But yeah, the military can definitely taint certain things you love. But yet again, it's your perspective on that. You can change that,
Yeah.
as I've had
Nice.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously you've what was it about the Dragon's Back that drew you to it? Because there's obviously so many races and
Mm.
you picked the hardest one.
um, Wales. What a way to see Wales.
Yeah.
Um, Having the belief that I can do it, and like, why not make it, you know, something that's really hard?
Mm,
And like, I think when I think about these events, you just got to give yourself enough time to prepare and be consistent with it. Like by the time I get to next year's Dragons Back, let's say everything's gone plain sailing. By the time I step on that start line, right, I've had 2 years of training
yeah.
with a tiny percentage of not running, all thinking about the Dragons Back. As soon as I did that, well, you know this. As soon as I saw that Dragons Back last year, I knew I wanted to do that, and I knew I want to do that event straight away.
Hmm.
I knew that that's like what I'm going to aim for. I just think what an amazing experience,
Yeah.
Like you speak to people that have done it. I knew a few people that done it this year. My coach done it. He had gone Sam, and then a guy that I used to serve with in the Royal Marines actually. And it's just like what an amazing experience. Like some people look at it as a holiday in a weird way because you're just cut off from the outside world. All you got to do, mate, is eat and run.
Mm,
There's some real special things about when you hit those sort of simplistic moments that you don't often get. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be worried about I need new clients when I'm away.
mm,
Do you know what I mean? Like you just don't. You're gonna. It's like you switch off from that.
yeah. I
So
a couple of years ago I went trekking in Corsica with my little brother and we went through the mountains there for 9 days and it is literally as you say, like all you have to do is wake up, walk, eat, sleep.
yeah,
Like that is it. And I guess even more so for you because it's so you're focused on yourself, right? Like
mm,
you'll obviously have those moments with other people, which will contribute to
mm,
the specialness of that event. But it is just like one
yeah,
in front of the other, like so simple.
yeah. And it is like when you bar all kit and stuff like that, making the weights and trying testing bits and bobs which you do in your training. By the time you rock up to something like that, it's actually quite simple. Like you're saying, you
Yeah.
just right be here at this time and be at the end at this time. Eat, sort your element out, socialize a bit, and go to sleep. So that's what I'm hoping it's like anyway. If I'm not getting in at like 10 o'clock at night, I'm fucking having to wash myself in the river and it's pitch black.
That'd be grim, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, Yeah, yeah. Those are the guys when I like look at the people. I've listened to a few good podcasts actually on like I can't remember what it was titled. It was like Back of the Pack in Dragon's Back basically, and it was
Oh,
like the
interesting.
people that were starting at 6, getting in at 10, making the cut-offs, but just skinning their teeth every day, you know. And it's quite what's quite significant about Dragon's Back. The best trophy is actually to the last person.
No way.
Yes, they have these 3 big dragons for top 3,
Yeah.
and then you got these nice small dragons for any person gets the biggest, like the best trophy. I think it's just because those people just truly, I think, feel every step to a degree. Not saying that people the top runners don't,
Mm.
but those guys are on camp by sometimes one
Two, yeah,
in the
1-2,
one
isn't
two
it?
in the afternoon, drying their trainers off, had a shower, eating a load of chips. You know, credits them because they've done that work
Hmm.
in the build up to do the event to be able to do that. Do you know what I mean? Like fair
Yeah.
play to that, you know, because they've put in the hard yards there. But then you've got the the mid pack, back of the pack sort of people that are coming in 10 o'clock, like woo, looking all deluded and
Mm.
stuff. Got to wash, got to do their admin, got to eat, and you think think how you're not going to get hydrated in that time.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that is looking at that event, that's what I'd fear because I
Mm,
think those people truly know about endurance and grit, determination, and
mm,
resilience. Because it's like you say, like it's. I'm not going to say it's easy for the front runners because it's obviously not. But you're on your feet for 5-6 hours,
mm.
whereas you've got the guys at the back that are on for 12, 14
12,
hours.
12, 14 hours, yeah.
They're just trudging away. It's
Mm,
like, you know, the people that win the London Marathon, yeah, it's an amazing athletic feat to do it in, near that 2 hour mark. But it's the 8 hour marathoners that are the ones that really
mm.
are resilient because
They feel they just feel every stride of that, don't they?
yeah, yeah.
In a way, they just have a different experience. But then like you think about those front runners though, they're the people who just put the more training in, right?
Mm,
So it's yeah, I get what you mean though. Yeah, I know what you mean though. But yeah, it's just different, isn't it?
yeah.
Just a different experience.
So on the subject of training, obviously your training has changed hugely in the last year or so. And I think
Mm,
from where we spoke, last time we chatted, you were running 4 days a week and I think strength training once or twice, and that's now upped again. Just give us an idea of like, even over the last years or
mm,
since you decided to, you're like, right, I'm going to commit to this because
mm.
as soon as you make that decision, you instantly have to be doing everything in your control to almost be putting yourself in the best position
Yeah,
to complete, right?
yeah. So like, because where you're prepping for something like that so far out, every run does contribute to a
Mm-hmm.
degree. Not singular sessions, but like every run does put miles on the leg in the legs, sorry, doesn't it? So I suppose when I started running for our ultra, I was doing 3 runs, 2 strength. Then over time, upped it to like 4 runs, 2 strength, and then recently gone up. Excuse me, 5 runs, 1 strength. So you sort of see the cost there, but I know I've just glossed over those. But each phase I've roughly done for like 4 months. Do you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
you see how that's just a real nice way of conditioning yourself. Do you know what I mean? I've spent a bit of time at one phase, got better, got good, right? How can we push that ceiling more? Let's add more running, back off the weights a bit. 'Cause, you know, specificity is king here.
Yeah.
Um, and then now I'm just into that phase of, um, 5 sessions now, which is good actually because what's nice with 5 sessions, it gets me to do some of the quicker stuff, like the tempos, 15-minute warm up, 5 rounds of tempo stuff, and then like 15-minute cool down, which is quite nice. So higher intensity sessions, but shorter duration.
Yeah.
So it's quite nice to do that sort of stuff now because that's also like what's quite nice about that is I can pair that with a weight session. So I can go into the gym, do like relatively light weights, and then just add the tempos onto the end.
Yeah.
It's quite a nice way of like backloading that. But I'm much quicker now to just drop the weight. So I have, as much as the way I've just said about that whole thing for a year of the way I've done it, there's been elements where I've definitely carried a lot of fatigue, where I've been stupid, where I've had like, you've got a 20-mile run on Friday, make it hilly, and I've lifted weights relatively that week. Like that's just stupid. Do you know what I mean? Like to do that because I'm going into that run. Like some people will be like, oh, pre-fatigue, but no, I want to get better at running, so I need to focus on that more. So when I go running, I've got DOMs in my adductors from back squats, and it's just not smart. So I've really had to reframe the way I've trained over the last few months of like, before I go and do something in the gym and I feel like I'm pushing it, you got to ask yourself, is the juice worth the squeeze here? Because this is going to affect your running for the rest of the week and then potentially the other week.
Yeah.
And now it's just like when I go into the gym, it's the most simplest workout you'll ever see, barely, leg curl, leg extension, and a few isos on there, machines with like chest press, seated row, bit of shoulders, a bit of arms. It's just real like tick over stuff, calves, adductors. But it's going to the gym at work and just at a real low intensity so that I don't really feel the bad effects of weight training, because I've
Yeah.
just like lowered that intensity so much. I can actually just tick over. I mean, you had quite a good conversation about this, didn't we? Where our background is strength,
Mm-hmm.
do we actually need to worry about it as much as the guys who have only ever been endurance and they want to get stronger? Do you know what I mean? Do we sit on the other side of the scale?
Yeah.
Are our bones already strong enough? Are our tendons and ligaments already strong enough? Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Those are things we just don't know. I think and that's personal preference, but the most important thing I've found, the beauty of this sport is you can't cheat it. You want to get better and running, you have to run. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And how have those phases
Has that
changed?
showed everything you needed to go on?
Yeah, no, no. I think it's some good stuff to think about there. Especially that you gradually increased it.
Yeah, I
Um,
just added a day over a few months. Whereas I know you get a lot of people, and it depends on what they can do, but what's their capacity.
mm,
But I know like personally I know that I can just, because of like we was talking about this before the call, where I've been trying to focus on sleep and stuff at the moment. I've never been a great sleeper.
mm,
I can just feel fatigue quite quickly, as in
yeah,
like by the end of the week I'm absolutely fried, and I know I shouldn't be feeling like that. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
When I look at that week's training, I'm like, I shouldn't feel that fatigued. Doing coaching, running the business, like being a good boyfriend, dog stuff, all that other
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah,
So it just builds up, doesn't it? It's not just about the stresses of the training.
yeah,
It's the things outside of that as well that you have to manage as well. It's a whole umbrella of that sort of stuff. So yeah, if I was going to advise people, if they're getting into running, or they're at like once or twice a week and they're like, fuck it, I want to do 5 times a week, I would say just add one more session. Then a couple months down the line, if you've managed to consistently do those 3 sessions, you still got that time to add a fourth, maybe add a fourth, but you don't have to. And it depends what they want from training as well, because you don't want to just keep adding running sessions if you actually don't need to, if that makes sense. I don't,
mm,
because some people, you got to think loads of people are just general runners, aren't they? Which there's nothing wrong with that, of course.
yeah,
Those people just run because they love it, they literally enjoy it. It's their time to switch off, get away from a bit of the life that they have at home to a degree, or work or whatever.
Get away from their phone.
Yeah, get away from your phone, leave that in the car. Do you know what I mean? All those little things.
Yeah.
So yeah. And,
Yeah. I think you make, again, some very good points. And I think from my experience with coaching runners, and especially people that have been in running for a while,
mhm,
um, there's such a focus on, and look, I think as you get a better runner, you inevitably are going to have to add some volume to reap the rewards.
mm,
But I think there's an over focus on volume sometimes and
yeah,
not on quality of running.
yeah,
And like you say, most of us aren't in a position where we can run 5 6 days a week because you have everything else to balance. Kids,
mm,
high stress job, the fact that you don't eat as well as you could do. Like all
mm.
the other stresses that come with life. Everything needs to be taken into consideration, right?
There's always a cost.
Yeah,
If you add something to your life, can you add it? Have you got space to? If you haven't, what do you take away? And that's been like, if you look at if you look at my recent training, so I've always roughly trained 5 to 6 days a week, and I've always made work around that. Because obviously the priority of getting dragons back, you have to take that seriously. So I have to mold my work to actually my training schedule. But as I've upped the running, something's got to give, and that's the weight session. And that's the thing, that's the cost. But I'm willing to obviously sacrifice that cost for that amount of time, and that's the same with anything. Like when we add training, if you're already spinning 10 plates, can you spin that 11 one, or do you have to drop something? Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So yeah, it's yeah. There's always a cost to these things.
yeah. And so, and what something you did quite quickly was um you got someone on board to take over your training, right? So
Yeah. So I got Gary House as a coach. I just liked his content, the way he was. Didn't take himself too seriously. Um, and I knew he'd done Dragons Back. I knew he'd coached lads on Dragons Back and stuff like that. He's Welsh as well. Can't have it all.
no,
And
shout out Gary.
and I just knew that straight away. Like, not, I've read great running books. I can technically coach myself to a degree, but I just wanted that taken out of my hands. And what's been really nice is because I coached myself for our ultra marathon that we
Yeah.
did. So that was like, say, 3 months. And what, look at it now, I was probably doing too much volume before that event. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So that's the good thing about working with Gary now. I have more recovery runs in. I have certain quite specific sessions, your tempos, your fartleks, uphill stuff. And then I have like my longer stuff, which is quite nice. So they're like, when I look at my training week, there's a real nice balance of the two sessions that are the same are sort of your recovery runs, those easy ones. And I'll dip into those as well because they are meant to be easy, as in like when you see that on your program, actually just adhere to that, because myself included, people don't run those easy.
No.
They run them way too hard, and what you end up doing, and the best way I can put this, imagine we've got 4 running sessions a week. We've got 2 hard efforts and we got 2 easy efforts. If you run those easy efforts at medium to hard, you can't put the work in on those hard sessions because you just end up carrying that fatigue. And that's stuff I learned. All these things I'm coming out with and saying, I know this is like a bit of the industry norm saying runners world, but these are things I went through as well. As in, like, I was doing, say, a shorter tempo session, and I just couldn't generate the leg turnover. I just couldn't do it because I'd lifted weights. I did too fast on my recovery runs, my easy runs. You know what I mean? I was running them too quick. So that's the one thing I would say, if you have those in your program as well, is just literally make them easy. They are meant to be easy. Do you know what I mean? There's a hill, that you don't want to run, walk it. You
Hmm.
don't have to run every hill because, and most of the time, this is the funny thing about sort of this ultra trail world or trail running. The pace you run on your easy runs are actually what you would do at the event. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
That's the amazing thing. It's like when I look at people sits on Dragon's Back, like the fastest runners, and it's going to sound like what, but you've got to remember the elevation. The fastest runners are running like 16-minute miles,
Mm.
and they're at the front doing these. But you think obviously when they're running downhill and on flats they're going for it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what you've got to remember. So they're walking the uphills. But yeah, so yeah, take the easy runs easy. Is you just carry that fatigue into your hard sessions, and then you can't push in those sessions.
Yeah. And is there an element of being, you know, Dragon's Back? There's a lot of it going up and there's a
Mm.
lot of it going down.
Mm.
So has your training had to specifically look at those two elements of that race?
Yeah, so I'm quite fortunate. I've got the South Downs quite close, but I'm not living in Wales, so it's not like literally walk out my door. But
Yeah.
I've got like if I do a 10 to 15 minute drive, I've got relatively okay hills.
Yeah.
And I have noticed that like of late, I've been just doing those runs a lot more, and they just feel good. Just it just feels better just getting used to that terrain, even though that terrain does not come near to what when you go up Snowdon area. You just look at that and it's just like, oh my god,
Yeah.
like it's nowhere near that, but it's better than just running flats, right? But then
Yeah.
again, you can get people that can run flats who can run really well on the hills as well, because they've got really good, they're really fit
Yeah.
and they're really conditioned and they've got good running economy. You think about those people. If you're fit, you're fit, aren't you?
Hmm.
In that way, because you think some of the best, like, or people that when they talk about what changed about your training, some people say I added a lot more road running, faster road runs, and that helped me get fitter for the hills. So it all intertwines with each other to a degree. It all has like a positive transfer when applied correctly.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, because downhill trail running,
Mm.
especially on some of the descents you'll be doing, is like a skill of its own, right?
Yeah, like for sure, like the way you watch these guys, these little mountain goats run down these hills,
It's
and
mad,
if
isn't
you was
it?
trying to keep up with them, you would just buckle. So yeah, you got to be mindful because they say whoever they are. Like if you can obviously have issues if you try and put the brakes on too much with your knees. You do feel that because it's like obviously your quad or your
Hmm.
thigh muscle that sort of stops you, right? That decelerates. So you've got to. It's quite tough with running downhill because you've got to be quite flowy, but you've got to be mindful where you push it. Like you think about on that Gower, the one that we did, there was those steps. And that was like our first proper downhill, wasn't it? And I was like, I was off. And then when we got to the beach, I was like, I mean, my quads are on fire.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then like when I did this year, I did in May, I did a Brecons Beacons ultra marathon, and there's this path. It's the one that takes you up to Penny Fan actually. The most common route, and I bolted down that, and I got to the bottom, and I was like, "Oh my leg, my quads." Do you know what I mean? I just blew myself too
Mm.
early with those sorts of things. So you've got to be mindful of that as well, because that can probably properly fire up, the quads, and that can feel not ideal. Yeah, because everyone always thinks about uphill,
Hmm.
but like I always look at uphills quite like in a good way, like power walk it, but it's a good time to eat and drink as well. I always look at it like that. But when you're going on the downhills, it's quite hard. It's actually a little bit of thing that's to a degree out of your control.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? It can be depending on how steep it is, sort of the terrain. But yeah, Dragon's Back will be quite savage for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
So how does your training look now? I mean, I don't know how Gary does it. Does he give you like an idea of how the whole year looks, or is it more of a case of just working through phases and he'll just update you on the phase you're going into as you go into it?
Yeah, so sort of that, like working on a month, like the monthly block. But it's like anything with this, right? Or training, it's just the consistency of the running. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter so much about these. It does, but not too much as what we look into at these certain sessions. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't. It's like when you think about strength training, it doesn't really matter what movement trains the quad. It's like how consistent are you with any of those movements? Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the same for running. It's like how many weeks you consistently running 5 times a week. Do you know? So yeah, every month I'll sort of like ask for certain things. Oh, that didn't work that well. This did work well. You know, and then they'll update me and just give me a brief heads up on that. But what would be quite cool is I've got an ultra at the end of this month, which I haven't really thought about, to be fair. Just completely like, I haven't really thought about it at all. And then post that, that's when I'll start doing recce days of
Yeah,
like the Dragon's Map, because you navigate it as well.
yeah,
So you do have a GPX on your watch if you want to, but you do get given a map and sort of a compass, so you can sort of do it that way as well. So it would just be good to get up there and you know, get on that ground, get on that terrain, and just see what it's about, I suppose. And that's what I think that makes this event quite special as well. It's like you don't have to do those things if you don't want to. Like some people don't ever do any recce's, but I'm not that sort of person anyway, because I want to be organised and prepared as much as possible.
mm,
I think that makes it quite fun. Do you know what I mean? Trying to do that stuff, getting up there, going to Brecon Beacons, going to Snowdonia, and obviously like mid Wales or like Cambrian mountains and stuff like that, having
mm,
a bit of fun on those couple of days. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So like as much as you're doing that race, which is 6 days,
yeah.
all those times you go to Wales as recce's and stuff like that, that's part of the race, right? That's part of the experience, you know?
And that's kind of part of the commitment as well, right? Like
Yeah.
that's, we've obviously talked about the training. You then will spend a significant amount of time in Wales, wrecking the routes, becoming more familiar. And although you don't have to do it, it's definitely not going to hurt your
Mm.
race, you know.
No.
And I guess like for me, if I was thinking about doing it similarly to how I guess you probably think, you want to do everything in your power to be able to complete, because there would be nothing worse than, aside from an injury which you maybe couldn't control,
Mm.
of going to one of those days and getting lost or not being fit enough and able
Yeah.
to like do it, right?
Yeah, like um why spend all that money and go to like this quite significant race if you haven't put all those things into place? Do you know what I mean? Why I always think about any event like that, like just be best as prepared as you can. And this is one of those ones where if you didn't put the work in before, you just get found out.
Mm,
I mean, you would just throw a lot of money away for no reason. You know, why do that? Why not just put the work in? And I think I'm quite attracted to that sort of challenge as well,
yeah.
of that, as in because it requires a lot of speaking to people, learning from Sam and stuff like that, and going up there, like all these things that are just like makes it a whole part of the experience more. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, so it's not just about the race, it's about these days that you do before.
Mm. Has there been any kind of kit you've had to get specifically for this race?
Well, I bought some kit, mate. I'm a kit pest anyway,
Yeah.
so I've always been into buying kit. The shoes I've gone through ultras or conies,
You're on the
hopers
speed
now.
goats at the Yeah.
Yeah, I really rate that shoe actually. I've got wide feet, that's my issue.
Mm,
So ideal for like most trail running shoes are quite narrow for me. Like a vest, a nice Solomon vest. Got a walking poles that I sort of incorporate into training now a little bit. Um, what's quite actually important is like the clothing,
Yeah.
um, making sure you got like the right waterproofs, like tape seams, sort of stuff, like a softy jacket. It's like it's like insulated, like geese feather or whatever, something quite thin like that.
Yeah.
All in all, it's actually quite. Once you've got it, you've got it. But to to do sort of ultra marathons, well, we had to have that stuff on our ultra, don't we? You just have to, because if you roll your ankle at the top of a mountain, it takes a few minutes before you start feeling the cold. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Gore-Tex trousers and stuff like that. I'm always of that camp of better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it can be quite pricey to a degree, but obviously, actually, a thing that I always forget about that's actually expensive is like the nutrition. You know, the gels, the the Voom bars that I've been trying and stuff like that. Taking on more foods that are less solid. Like, remember when we did mine, I was eating like chop McVitie's flapjacks in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I got a big cramp. So do you know what I mean? Like, as much as I can eat food on the move and not be sick, how does that get digested actually is
Mm.
which is quite important. Um, so yeah, so just the whole all in all entering Dragon's Back is quite expensive.
Mm.
The event, the recce's, because that's like 1 to 2 days Airbnb, food, the kit. Do you know what I mean? But that's just part of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you're getting into it, you know what you got to do. That's part of it, yeah.
So while we're on the subject of nutrition, how has that changed much for you? Like the way you view nutrition, not just in terms of what you're taking on your runs, but nutrition as a whole? Because I know you were the one who pointed me on to what is the name of the book that changed? Is it Eat to Perform?
Rennie McGregor.
Yeah.
Rennie McGregor's book. What's it? Fuel More Food or something? I don't know
Oh
what it's
no,
called.
More Fuel You. That's
More
it.
Fuel
More
You.
Fuel
So,
You.
so what's quite good about her, like in the world of nutrition, I always tend to, in a way, listen to dietitians more. I just thinking they're more qualified. There's dodgy dietitians out there, like there is every practice, by the way. They're usually more qualified. I just find I just sometimes in a way sometimes prefer their moral compass if I'm honest. But the good thing about Rennie is actually she is an ultramarathon runner herself. So when she's writing her book, there's a similar background there. Do you know what I mean? We have that
Hmm.
connection already. So that sort of she's everything she's saying is not just theory or based on science, the evidence. It's actually some of it's tried and tested with her as well. And when I read that book, it just made me really think about, especially before your sessions, after your sessions, and during, to be fair,
Hmm.
and not doing your best around the other hours of the day, but like for you to get most out of your sessions, definitely just, thinking about before, during, and after. Um, but then there's other ways you can look at that. Like if you train fasted, that creates different adaptations that are quite good in a way as well. Because obviously your muscles are going to react a little bit different because there's obviously not no carbs there.
Yeah.
So there's so many ways you can do that play around with nutrition. But yeah, I've definitely sort of eaten more, which is good. I was naturally one of those people that would just go in the morning, have a coffee, and fast.
Yeah.
One of those people. Whereas now I'm making sure I'm eating like quite a well balanced meal in the morning, and then training. Stuff like that.
Nice. So, for anyone who is potentially looking at, like entering a big race, or they've, similar to you, seen something like the Dragon's Back, and
Mm.
they've just thought, you know what, I'd absolutely love a crack at that. What advice would you give them, sort of, in going and entering a race like that?
Biggest thing for me: give yourself enough time to prepare for it and turn up your best self on that day. Do you know what I mean? Like give yourself enough time, and then obviously put the work in between. Because if you see something you want to do and you know it's next month, but you know you're not fit enough and you know you're not anything ready for it, then what are you going to get out of that event? Like, what's the purpose of that? You know, what are you trying to achieve? You just, I mean, why do that? Why not just wait, or find another event that might be in a few months? If that, because most of these events are like every year, aren't they? Like
Yeah.
once a year. So why not, if you wanted to do an event that was in November, but you know you haven't got enough time to get fit for that, why not try something different in March and then come back to that event in the next November? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just give yourself enough time to prepare, essentially. And, you know, invest in a coach as well, especially well with running and strength, to be fair, because if you're sort of cuffing these sessions on your own, you've only got a certain amount of time with that, to a degree. Like you got the people out there, the Killian Jornet, you know, he did get coached, but now he coaches himself. But you know, the guy's been running in mountains since he was like 2. So you know, you have got those outliers out there. But for the most Joe public, myself included, you know, just invest in a coach.
Yeah.
You know, most running coaches are really fair priced as
Yeah.
well. They're really, you know, they're not like a typical fitness industry idiot trying to charge you 9 grand a month for a fucking meal plan. Do you know what I mean? You don't really get that in the running world. It's like, here it is. How many days can you do? Okay, cool. Here's your plan. Enjoy. Crack on.
Yeah. Nice.
So yeah, I would say, yeah, if you're at that level now of like, right, I'm bored of doing 3 5Ks a week. How do I push that? Then, you know, good to probably invest in a coach.
Yeah. Nice, mate. Well, thanks for your time. If anyone wants to follow your Dragon's Back journey or ask you about training, coaching, anything like that, where can they find you?
Um, Let me just get my phone to find out what my Instagram handle is. I should know this, but how bothered I am about it. Obviously, I've accidentally just clicked on my dog's one.
Right Mind Fitness, isn't it?
Right Mind Fitness _. That's the bit I always forget. James Bezant, however you want to say it. Yeah, and that's my profile. If anyone has any questions, I'm always open. I always love receiving questions and just chatting to people about their training and stuff like that. I think Instagram's an amazing platform for that, just reaching out and just asking, I suppose, us guys who know a little bit more than most, you
Yeah.
know, what they need help with, you know. So yeah, that's it for me really. With socials, I don't really
Yeah.
do Facebook
Fair enough, mate. Fair
and
enough.
that.
Well, thank you very much for your time. We'll
No,
end it
thank you,
there.
dude. End it there, mate.